Craig, wow, I barely recognize you out of your guard uniform.
I need $20,000 for a down payment on a piece of swampland.
Are you applying for a loan?
Yeah.
I'm an advocate for Black people. It's important you know that, because I can't give you a loan.
I worked on that presentation for over a year.
This is your life, Gregory. You gotta take action.
I don't have much right now. I have no car.
Call the fire department.
My home is a 24-hour gym. Hey, Camille. Marco.
I got offered a new job in Columbus, Ohio.
You're not taking my daughter to Columbus. They don't even have a sports team.
They have the Blue Jackets.
You are not making my daughter a hockey fan. Doing the right thing is never a mistake. I believe in karma.
What about Nemo's mom and Finding Nemo? You think she got what was coming to her?
We don't know what Nemo's mom did before the movie started. We don't know how she was.
You don't have to worry. I'm not one of those weird Uber drivers that doesn't talk. Oh! Sorry, I just have to do one thing.
What's that hammer for?
Hammering. Would you mind sliding down a tad?
No! No!
So, you're probably wondering about the snake.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm wondering about.
Burmese pythons eat everything. It's an ecological disaster. So the state pays for every dead python we bring in.
Whoever gets the most snakes wins $20,000.
Would you want to team up? I'm tough. Don't you hear my rugged Australian accent?
Okay.
I put that work in, now watch me work. I put that work in, now watch me work.
Are you okay?
I nailed the snake to my hand.
At least you didn't feel any pain.
Yeah. Looking for the bullseye, take it, name. Here to take it over, it won't be the same. Blood, sweat, and tears, you'll get out the way.
There is some very intense competition. Look at this old timer.
Fly just landed on his eye.
It's a hunting technique. Any second, he's gonna snatch her out of the air.
That guy's so old, insects think he's dead.
Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today we have a real treat for you as we are talking to the cast and creatives responsible for the hit Peacock show, Killing It. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to our members today on the call, starting with our guest facilitator, Kim Singleton in New York, Nancy Green in Baltimore, Reggie Pounder in Chicago, Carolyn Hines in Toronto, Brandon Collins in Burbank now, right?
Yeah, I'm an LNF.
Since you've relocated from Manhattan. Rhonda Rasha Penrice in Atlanta, Janita Davis in Indiana, and I think that is it. And Mr. Al McGee down there in South Florida. So I'm gonna let you guys do what you do so well, and I'm gonna see you on the other side.
Hi guys, I'm Reggie Ponder, the real critic out of Chicago. Hey Craig, my first question, my first question is going to go to Stephanie. So I'm gonna try this. So let me see if I could do. This not gonna be my full question, but let me see if I could do my little bit of sign language here. So I signed a little, just a little bit there.
Great job.
Stephanie, in this series, you have the people who are really trying to get over and really like the snakes. And then you have the people who are a little bit more loving and kind and forgiving. Your character falls into that latter group. Can you talk about how you see this character playing out and the importance of your character to this series, especially since Craig doesn't have his stuff together?
Well, I could say the character Camille is very important because the show really is all about balance. The whole cast really displays that. It's a crazy cast. We've got some weird stuff going on, but Camille really helps bring the balance to the show, I would say. If she wasn't there, I think everything would be out of control. So she helps kind of, like I said, balance some of the energy with Craig and make sure that he remains grounded. And I think that that's really applies to everyone. Everyone has that need for balance in their personality, and she's that ability to give Craig that reminder, hey, slow down, let's use some common sense here. if she wasn't here, like I said, I think things would be lost. Craig might lose his mind. So it's important that Camille is a part of the show for sure.
Hi, Nancy Green with Film Critique.
Hey, Nancy.
Hi. And my question is for everyone. One of the things that I was reading about with the show was the idea of showing this whole age of entrepreneurship and what that means for people being creators and things like that. And there's a line in the show that really sticks out to me. And that's when, she's told that she has to either screw over her friends and help herself, or she has to help her friends and screw herself over. And you can see kind of throughout the show that whenever anyone helps someone else, they kind of end up on the losing end of things. And so I wanted to know if you could all speak to that and maybe the interpretation of that, especially given the ending of the show, of the first season.
Thank you for correcting yourself.
Yes.
I'll say, that's the thing we talked a lot about writing. That line in that episode, that's in the 6th episode, was largely about, people faced with a series of unpleasant choices where like you're constantly forced to like make the lesser of, to choose between the lesser of two evils, sort of, which felt sort of like the guiding principle of the show. But I think that Dan and I talked about a lot when we were writing it originally was the idea of people being left behind a little bit. We knew from this is a rags to riches story. It's there in the beginning. You see from the very start that Craig's going to get rich, and we wanted to make a show that was very clear-eyed about struggle and about the nature of sort of like the American dream, but we wanted to make it a show, and we want to tell the audience that this was a show where Craig's character is going to succeed. Because I think there's a little bit of, we were afraid that a show where you just felt like you were just going to watch him struggle and endlessly fail would get exhausting and depressing. Just as a viewer, that there's only so much tolerance people have for that. But a thing that we were very aware of then is like, we talked a lot about we're making a rags to riches story, or one of these 1 in a million stories, and they do happen occasionally, and we wanted to be very clear-eyed about how that actually plays out in real life. And one way is when there's 1 in a million, when someone is one of those 1 in a million, there's 999,900. It's there. All these other people don't make it, and we wanted to be very clear about the idea that this wasn't a show where like it's a happy ending for everyone. And I think a big part of the reason we wanted to do the sort of like competition structure is if Craig was going to win this snake hunt, that meant that everyone else who entered it wasn't going to win. And what we were hoping to sort of do from the beginning was say, all these other people who were involved, all of them who seem like comedy characters and jokes and sort of like antagonists we've written, by the end, you're like, oh, every one of these people is a real person with a real set of struggles for whom that money is also as life-changing as it is for Craig, and Craig's going to get it and the rest of them won't. And, I think we wanted to be very clear-eyed about that it's not, the idea of like a rising tide lifts all boats is just not, is not at all something that how the real world plays out.
Yeah, if I could just add, I think that there's like this idea of the American dream. We really wanted to give a clear-eyed, as Luke was saying, picture of the American dream. And there's this idea that everyone can be an entrepreneur and we can all win. And therefore, if you don't win, there's some sort of implicit blame assigned to you for having failed, when in fact, structurally, so many of the opportunities are zero sum, which means not everyone can win. And so I think that's what we were really, as Luke just said, I think that's what we were really trying to explore in a funny way.
Nice, thank you. And Craig, if you have anything to add to that?
I can't say any better than what they just said. No, sorry.
I mean, Craig's incredibly successful. Craig, how many people did you stomp over in order to get where you are today, would you say?
I took the go out and get it route. That's how I relate to that character, man. I came in prepared to hear no over and over again. When my character does his sacrifice at the end to give her the money, you know, that was the beginning of his nothing but snakes all the way down, you know, even though it started from a sweet place.
Kim Singleton from Consider It Blacklit in New York City, and loved the show. It was funny and it had enough depth that you emotionally connected to all of the characters. But my question is about the snakes, okay? There is a thing that to go snake hunting and win thousands of dollars in Florida. So my question is to whoever had scenes with snakes, did you do any research and go on real snake hunts? And also, how close did you have to get to the live snakes when you had to do the scenes? And what was that process like?
I can answer that. We had 3 versions of snakes, right? You got the fake snake that you know struggling with. You got the CGI, and then you got some real snakes that were on set. And every time the real snakes were there, someone from the American Humane Society was present. So there were no snakes harmed. Not that we would have harmed them anyway, but no snakes were harmed in the filming of killing it. I had a healthy fear of snakes up until about 2015. I went to Australia and I was with my band and stuff. And we went to the animal sanctuary. And then they put the snake around my neck, you know, and it was all beautiful and it was sweet. And I was like, wow, the snake means me no harm. I've been misled by the Bible and Indiana Jones. So once we got to our set, so I knew I could handle snakes. I knew, so we did get to play with some snakes, and there was some there, but it was never any like, oh, the snake, you know, any fear going on.
What about you, Scott? You had a lot of scenes with snakes.
I did. Well, it's almost like, I was saying this to my kids the other day. It's almost like a, some sort of fable where, I was afraid of snakes because I never interacted with snakes. And then if you asked me if I liked them, I would tell you I didn't. And then the more on set, in particular, there's one episode later in the season where my character Brock actually has to grab narratively a rattlesnake, but in real life it was a bull snake, and spent a bunch of time with that snake that day. And kind of the more time I spent with it, I really began to appreciate these animals. I mean, they're really wild.
That snake was a dick. That snake was like, it kept hissing at you. It was, I don't know why you bonded with it. I thought that snake was like, represented snakes very poorly.
Well, there was always a moment where Luke would give me or the snake a note and then walk out of the room, and the snake would look at me and be like, I mean, it's very, very hard to take notes sometimes. But no, truthfully, that it was a scary snake and it would move around a lot. But just the more time you get, there was more of an appreciation for the snake, to the point where I think during one take, the snake had kind of maneuvered itself and it was under the foot. And you become very conscious when you're working with another person or animal that, like you're trying to get the stuff, but you do want to take care of them or her more than anything. So they're interesting. They're interesting.
What about you, Claudia? I mean, I'm glad to hear. Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to just give a little backstory on Brock, a little behind the scenes. I mean, on Scott, after his Zoom audition, he sent in a video of him as character Brock doing YouTube videos with snakes. He went and found some people to give him snakes and, well, to play with the snakes. So that was crazy.
And unnecessary, because we'd already decided to give him the part, and then we got this video of Scott with 3 enormous snakes wrapped around him, and we didn't. I don't know if we had the heart to tell you that it was unnecessary, that you'd already been cast.
And possibly deleterious. We were like, he's nuts.
So for
If
Claudia, I'm
anything, it
glad to
didn't
hear
help.
that no snakes were harmed because you really went in on the snakes. Tell us about your relationship with the
true.
snakes.
Well, I certainly didn't go on any research trips where I would actually hunt snakes in real life because, you know, killing an animal is not something I'm interested in doing particularly directly. You know, I eat meat. I think it's nice. But anyway, I had worked with snakes before. I did a sketch on Amy Schumer's show where I played a snake doctor and I spent a couple of days covered in like huge pythons. So going into the audition for this show, I was like, I can work with snakes. I'm comfortable with them. But on this show, we actually had very little to do with actual snakes. And it was not so, I mean, I probably just like hurt my body, just like pretending to hit the snake. But that was the main, you know, injury I sustained. No actual snake bites or anything like that.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
A great job, everyone. I love the show.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, I'm Al McGee with YETicket.com. I'm here in Florida. And first of all, Luke and Daniel, you know, I've been living down here for 30 years. I never saw a show about snakes, anything like that, the way you put this together. Why did you decide to have snakes as the main subject matter in this? But also Rell, your character, man, I really enjoy him. He's a very street smart person. Is that you in real life? Or did you have to research that yourself?
There you go, Rell.
No, that is not. I'm not that animated. I'm not that animated for crime. But you know, I think we all know these people. I can give you a couple of uncles that character was. It's pretty. I have a twin brother named Terrence, and that's pretty much my brother. Like every day, he's very in the hustle sense of, you know, he does real estate. He's a music manager. He produces short films in Atlanta. He works at the like he's got like 30 jobs. And so he's always like the next hustle. He's getting money. So
Do you think he's going to be excited to hear? Do you think he's going to be excited to hear this description of him as a music manager?
He's too busy to pay attention to this right now. He's like, if he's making money, he ain't got time to listen to what we're talking about. So he does 1,000. He does 1,000 jobs. He had a record deal. He's weird.
Record deal.
So he's a hustler, and so and Craig's met my brother before, and like I think he might just went up to Craig. Hey, what's up, man? So he's very he's in the moment guy. So Isaiah is my brother with a little bit more tequila, if that makes sense. So I was able to kind of jump into that pretty easy.
Oh, yeah, I understand, because I know many people like that, including myself. I had to do a lot of hustling throughout my life. That's why I admired that character. But anyway, Luke and Daniel, why did you put snakes in the background of this story, or the main feature in this story? I'm really fascinated about that.
I mean, look, it's a real thing, obviously, for the people who are not in Florida. Like, this is all an actual thing that's happened. They people released exotic pet snakes into the Everglades, and they've destroyed the Everglades. They've eaten 90 to 95% of all other living creatures. It's like there's these stories about like the recordings, just the audio of if you go and record sound in the Everglades 20 years ago and then go now, it's like basically silent. Like the snakes have eaten every bird, all the animals. It's just like a dead silent sea of snakes. And the state has started paying people to kill them, and they started hosting these about 12 years ago, these actual python bowls where over the course of a weekend, everyone comes, professional and amateur. The first one, the prize was not $20,000, it was an ATV. Whoever killed the most feet of snake won an ATV. And Dan and I read about it a decade ago, and I think it just stuck with us, and we've been talking about it as it's a comedy idea, and that it's such an insanely scary and horrifying thing to do. And the people who engage in it are not all professional animal wranglers and swamp, experts, or they're just like, it was a lot of regular people. And so it seems like a really great, for a story about money, it's a great sort of exaggerated comic idea of this the lengths that people have to go to make their way in America, you know, the kind of horrible jobs people do. This is an exaggerated one or an unusual one, but it sort of stands in, I think, for every, you know, it stands in as an exaggerated version of the other gig economy jobs that Claudia's character is doing, and that, you know, that factory job or working in an Amazon warehouse or whatever that everyone does to make money. And then, you know,
also,
beyond that, I think we talked a lot about the sort of biblical implications of the snakes. And, you know, we think a lot about, we talked a lot in writing about Craig's, there in the pilot a lot, Craig's belief in the American dream and in capitalism as a kind of quasi-religious faith, this idea that he will be rewarded for good behavior and for hard work is very similar to a lot of people's sort of religious, you know, faith of how if you behave the right way, that ultimately the universe or God or someone was looking out for you. And that we talked a lot about that. And then also just as a general metaphor, I think there's something very fascinating about that sort of, you know, it gets at the end, the speech that Rell gives so wonderfully in the final episode about like these just like unstoppable hungry snakes that just have like that just destroy everything in their path, that's sort of a great stand-in for how you have to be in American capitalism as an individual, as a corporation, just these like heartless and, you know, and vicious, and that nothing but snakes all the way down was sort of like, you know, from the very beginning we wanted that to be, you know, we knew that was sort of the thematic like end point of the show, is the question of like, are these snakes like really representative of how the world works or not?
I mean, they're right there at the fall of man, right in the beginning, right in the Bible.
Do you ever see snakes living in Florida, living in Boca?
No, iguanas.
Yeah.
Now we got a problem with iguanas because I'm not near
we
the
had those
Everglades. I'm
iguanas.
near the ocean. Yeah. So
Have they ever
not bad
fallen
at
out
all.
of trees on you?
Oh yeah, I play golf, and when I get on the golf course after the cold spell, they land right there on the golf course and right there on the track. And then you come back the next day when it's warm, they're gone.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you guys very much. And it's a very, very successful show. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Carolyn. I'm here for the Series What Happened and Carolyn Talks podcast. So this is a question for everyone, and it's kind of going off of the question that Al asked just now. So one of the things that really stuck out for me with the show is snakes, and I've been around snakes. I've actually touched snakes and held snakes, and they are not. I'm more afraid of roaches than I are of snakes. But the thing for me when it comes to snakes in the show is how they are very metaphorical, and for me it had a lot to do with politics. And then I was looking more of how it, especially where the show kind of touches on the politics of America before 2016 and then just after the elections. So I want to ask everyone, for you, what would you consider to be the apart from snakes would be the main metaphor of the themes the show goes through, because it touches a bit on disability, on, you know, immigration, on gender dynamics, and even class structure with regards like the story with you know, like going into the house and you see all of the how technology creates a barrier between people. So I want all of you to give your interpretation of what the snakes and the metaphor of it all means for you.
Look, going back to what Luke just said at the end about snakes all the way down. Snakes were winning. Snakes were slimy, they were creepy, but they were winning. And it's the reason they were winning, because they didn't give a damn. And I think that's a reflection of that my character tried to give to Craig's character a lot, that you know, I was financially doing okay in my hustles. So I'm doing all right. You're sitting there broke, living out your car. I'm doing all right because I'm living like a snake in a sense. And then every character in a sense has to they have to throw away their morals to win. And Craig's character did it, and Claudia's character, and Scott as well. So good people had to turn bad, I think, to want to achieve some kind of success. I'm just a little bit more advanced, and I just went a little too far with Isaiah, his character. But I think the snakes show that. And then you can look at today in America, a lot of snakes are very successful and winning. I think that's the honesty of our show. You know, I think people might see it kind of pessimistically, but I think, you know, America is a place built with good and bad guys. That's how I saw it.
I kind of looked at it in a similar way, in that like the snake is this indiscriminate consumer. And I think what I kind of took away from it as a viewer, because it does play on you differently than when you're acting in it and reading it and performing it. When you sit back and watch what they've edited together and the story that Dan and Luke told, I kind of took it away as, you know, we can compartmentalize ourselves 1,000 different ways, but the indiscriminate consumer of greed is coming for you no matter what you know, where you live or what you look like or sound like or anything. And if we could kind of come together in that and understand that, then maybe you have a chance. Otherwise, you know, we're all just going to get eaten. And, you know, that's kind of how I kind of found hope in the message that we're all in it together, and currently we're all screwed, but maybe the fact that we're in it together is the answer to begin with. So
I just want to say, I think the other reason we chose snakes is they're funny. I think we thought it would be funny to see Craig wrestling with a snake. We had the idea real early on of a snake waking up in the car and Craig having to try to kill it with his bare hands while Claudia was hitting it with a hammer. And then a thing I always wanted to do that we didn't do, we had it in the script, but we had to lose it, was that Brock and Craig were fighting over a snake, and they had the snake stretched out between two cars, and they were just driving down the street. Neither one was willing to give up on the snake. But because I do think just a thing we really tried to do all along, and it's so great to hear you all asking about the metaphors and the tone, the sort of like larger message. But I think fundamentally our hope is that when people watch this show, they are laughing. Like, this is a hard comedy, and that's really what we'd love to get that across. And, you know, I just don't want us to get too lost in the weeds of the sort of academia of the like choices we made. A lot of the choices were just, we thought it'd be funny. There's you see every part of an old man in episode 3, and I can assure you it is not a metaphor for the political situation in this country right now.
That's actually not true. It's not an accident, Dan, that he's like searching for change. This like naked old man desperately trying to
come on, man.
penny is like very metaphorically rich.
Can I ask you, what's the metaphor?
And also to actually see into his butt, as you do.
Yeah, that's
a tremendous metaphor for what our political situation
capitalism.
is.
Yeah, absolutely.
The butthole of an old man.
What is the metaphor of sticking me in a camo thong? Can you maybe extrapolate on that?
I just really wanted to see that from the moment we cast you.
Yeah, just like, no metaphor. No metaphor.
No metaphor.
I love that.
I will say the thing I about the snakes, the one thing I will say to Dan's point is we did talk a lot about the metaphorical importance of them, but I also think the story of the snakes is like just on its own, forgetting the story of the show, it's like a wonderfully American story, and that it's such a stupid apocalyptic event. Like, some people wanted this big fucking snake as a pet, and then it was like too expensive, so they like drop it in the swamp, and then it's just taking over in a way that's like really scary, and like not just like, oh, it's eating a lot of animals. It's like the pythons have started mating with another kind of python that's less resistant to cold, and now they're making these super pythons that are moving out of just the coastal regions of Florida up the coast, and they're like, by the year 2100 they think these pythons will be the dominant species in all of North America. It's just like, and it's all because like some dudes wanted a cool pet, and it again, I feel like a lot of what we were going for was sort of like real dumb tragedy, you know, like I do feel like a lot of the story is a tragedy, but also the defining factor of it is like just idiots, you know, like idiots bringing on their own destruction. And snakes seem great for that.
I have a response to that question.
Yeah.
The snake represents fear. And if you take the scene where we first see this first snake, and how even when the snake was thought to be dead, my character was like all away from it, all afraid. And then once confronted with the fear. You could either let it overwhelm you, or you can grab it by the neck and chop his head off. So then my character came to the point where he was killing the very thing that he was afraid of.
Kill the fair.
The end.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Brandon Council, the Media and Popcorn Podcast. My question is for Craig and Rell. The dynamic between Craig and Isaiah is hilarious, but also kind of unhealthy. Nevertheless, the audience, can't help but want to see more scenes between the two of you. So how'd you two work together to figure out the relationship between the brothers? And we'll start with Craig first.
Well, Rell and I know each other from the comedy scene, and I'm sorry. Before that, we used to have Friday lunch way back when.
Friday lunch.
So we knew each other a little bit, and we're both comics. So we would run around New Orleans and hitting, the comedy stages and just, bonding like that. But there were times where and the beauty was he was always up for rehearsal. Everybody, whenever it was, because I would call rehearsals when, on the weekend or whatever, let's Zoom or talk or phone, let's get this in. And Rell was open, to like, we were leaving the club one night and we start, I was like, come on, let's get to work. He thought I was just gonna take him home. I was like, come on, let's get to work on this scene. And so we sat and hammered the scene out so that we, in
the car.
In the car. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't drinking. But it was that kind of thing. Like, and then and we got a couple of stories that actually gave us that big brother, little brother relationship. So there was realness there. And real, you know what I mean? It was that's my little brother. So I have plenty of those, not plenty, but I have those toxic relationships. It was one thing where in the script it was like, man, if you wasn't my brother, I swear I wouldn't even fuck with you, but you are. So that love, that blood, that everything trumps whatever y'all going through.
Yeah, and as a younger comic to the amount of time that Craig was doing comedy, all the comics look up to Craig. In the club, you see him, you perform a little bit better when he's watching, or any of the vets are watching. So, Brandon, you're a comedian, you know how that goes. So, you've always trying to get that approval. And I know I've done that with Craig 1,000 times, and we would do shows. He's like, Craig, come to the show. All right, I got, you want your fellow comedians to respect what you do. So, and I would, like I said, I would follow him around the clubs and stuff all the time as well. When we would go out at night. So, you're hanging with the big homie. So as we spent more time in New Orleans, I saw how Craig would operate, because I'm like high strung, I'm moving. I'm like, what's up, everybody? I'm just trying to have a good time. Craig just in the back chilling. He got his mask on because it was still COVID, really, And our behaviors outside of work kind of also will play on the show. And my twin brother, that's a music manager. We're twins, so we can have we've always been pitted against each other, like sport, everything. So we've had these intense conversations, and it was pretty easy to kind of bring some of that energy. And I'm gonna be honest, I probably told him if he wasn't my brother, I wouldn't fuck with him. So it's easy to kind of replace my big brother, who's my twin, but he's 6 minutes older. And in our family, that's like he's older. It's easy to kind of replace those relationships. And it was a pretty smooth transition. And I think knowing Craig before the shoot actually really helped. The chemistry was already there, in my opinion.
All right, appreciate y'all, and great job, everybody. Y'all literally killed it. No pun intended.
Brandon, I just told them you're a comedian. You hit them with that. Are you embarrassing me?
I'm sorry, man.
You told them.
Low hanging fruit, bro.
You messing up my Craig.
Hello, I'm Jonita Davis from the Black Cape. Stephanie talked about balance. And so my question is about this fine line that all the characters and even the story kind of towed between the comedy and this intense drama. Every one of y'all had like this monologue that had some like meaty stuff in it, but then the story and each of the individual characters also had something that was like really just off the wall funny at some point. Well, you know, throughout. How did you balance or approach your characters, and for Daniel and Luke, approach the story without becoming offensive or too absurd? I mean, how did you toe that line?
Anybody want to go?
Well, I think from the writing standpoint, Scott, wait your turn. From the writing standpoint, we were just, that was the goal all along, was to have moments of drama and moments of really hard comedy. And so while breaking stories and while talking about the characters, at every point, you know, I think we would just ask ourselves where we were, and we set out with the mission of having it be balanced, with the mission of making these characters real people, and real people have moments of drama and sadness and struggle in their life, and also moments of high comedy. And sometimes those moments of high comedy come out of the drama and the struggle. And we were also really conscious, I think the challenge, and Luke can speak to this more, I think one of the challenges we really presented to ourselves was we wanted to make a show that was about something, but was really a comedy and maintained itself as a comedy at all points. And so it was something we tried to never lose sight of. Luke, do you have anything to add? Scott, you will wait your turn.
No, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, I think the thing was, again, we were trying to make a show we knew it was about struggle and people sort of at the lower rungs of society. And I think there are a lot of shows about that. And one thing that always stuck out at me, a lot of them are dramas, there's sort of an unrelenting bleakness to them that always speaks to me of like, A, unpleasant for an audience, but B, a little bit of like, I don't know how realistic that is. Like, I don't know that most people, no matter how hard their lives are going through every day a slog of misery. You know, I think for most people there's highs and lows, and it's not all like Mayor of Easttown style, like just like not to single that out, but the show was just like unrelenting, just like parade of fights and sexual assaults and murders. And, you know, and I think what we thought that this is like, for most people, life is highs and lows. And we thought we would try to capture that even when people are struggling, there's still like things in their lives that are good and happy and funny and weird. I would say the only other thing I'll say is,
most people are hunting snakes and getting snakes nailed to their hands. This is what people are doing.
No, but I was going to say one thing. We talk a lot about balance in writing, and I think a question that you always get asked is like, how do you strike the balance of the tone? And my feeling is always like, I don't really feel like we wanted to balance the tone. Like, I'm not interested in. I like things that don't have one tone. You know, when it's not just like. I like the unsteadiness that comes with, from an audience perspective, of like when you don't know where a show is going, when a show is really funny and then it's surprisingly dark or surprisingly emotional, and it's not trying to find like an exact right single tone. I like those swings. I think that keeps it unexpected. And for me, all I ever want as a viewer is to feel like I don't know what's coming up, you know. And that's really how we approached the show, was like, how to make a show where you didn't know what the next, you didn't know how the episode would end. You didn't know what the next episode would be. You didn't know how the season would end. And that was, hopefully didn't give people too much whiplash.
And the rest of the cast, I wanted to know how you approached your characters without, with this kind of balance.
Before they go, I just want to say, it's so incredibly difficult to do what they all did. It's really, really hard to be as funny as they are all able to be, and then also be able to hit real dramatic moments. There are a lot of, I've said this before, there are a lot of like very famous, successful actors who could never do this. Like, and I think a lot of people can do drama, and that's like, that's hard, and it is, but also to be able to do drama but to be funny and really have the comic chops is like, it's an impossible task. And it's crazy that this cast pulled it off as well as they did.
Look at the cat in Stephanie's window.
Yeah, really.
Sorry, guys. Her name is Fluffy.
I love her. I think we were just so lucky as actors because the scripts were so funny. So going into it, like, and also I think they were like written in really balanced ways where, you know, we did all seem to like eventually have like dramatic moments and all of that stuff, but it was like, it was all there in the script for us. So, you know, it's really rare to get to do scripts which are this funny and I think, and this well written. So I don't know, it was just, we were lucky.
My approach is to believe what we're going through. It's and just be in the moment. But then Claudia's right, we were lucky in the writing, but also lucky with the characters. Because I'm thinking of a moment where like there were times where like Jillian G would say something and it just affected me. You know, it was like when we were in the forest and did y'all see the whole spoiler alert? We were in the forest or the swamp rather, and she overheard, you know, and she's like, "Oh, you Brock, you were Brock." Like every time she hit it, it like hit me like we were, you know, so it's, you know, our responsibility that's our job really, but it's really to believe that, you know, we're going through this situation in despair. And I mean, it goes back to everybody. The directors will get us there. It starts with the writing. I didn't even know how this is a set random thought, but I didn't even know how dark the show was gonna get until like the table reads. Like I was like, whoa, we doing something. This and that balance is crazy. So yeah, but it's for me, it's about just believing that all this is happening. Then like getting stuff like when we were in the finale, and Rell was like straight crying. You know, it was real. It was real for us.
The biggest compliment I think I've gotten from like people I've seen it is that I didn't expect that. Like I didn't see that coming. You know, people just assumed it was going to be a traditional. Hell, I thought it was going to be a traditional comedy, and looks like, you know, he kept telling me, you know, we got this scene. You know, you gotta, you know, not big scene, but you might have to cry. You gotta really cry. And he kept telling me this. I go, why? This is a comedy. Like I know, but you know, and I'm like, you know, and I didn't get how it flips. And I don't know. I don't know too many television shows on that allow you to be able to play in both of those worlds and not feel forced, because every emotional scene from every character came from a real place. You know, Craig is eating out of a George Foreman grill in his car, and Jillian G. Claudia's character is getting kicked out of the country, and Scott lost his job and he can't afford to pay for this house, and you know, and I'm dealing with issues with my dad and my character. So these are real problems that are easy to relate to, and then we can still be funny. So I don't think any of these characters are crazy, wild people. I think everybody on this Zoom right now, you know, a Craig, you know, a Claudia, you know, Isaiah, you know, Sky, you know Stephanie's character. I think they're just honest characters. That's why it's so easy to be able to play them. We didn't have to stretch really to get those emotions if we found those places.
I think
and I wanted to add, sorry. In relation to the balance, what we were just talking about, I noticed that with a lot of people, when they watch it and see a deaf character, they think, oh, they're just acting normal. Exactly. We live normal lives, we're humans, and showing that on this series was great. There was no, this emotional feeling of pity, I should say. We're normal people, we're motivated, we have normal lives. So being able to showcase that and showcase that, hey, there's no excuse. You can have whatever kind of life you want if you work hard. My character as an ex-wife, showing the dynamic between Craig and our daughter, just showing that normal representation on screen, it can really be a reflection of what's going on in America in general. Most people are not rich, right? And so just showing that normal dynamic was really important. And showing it in the comedic way, as well as that dramatic style, it reflected truly who we are. And I think is what made a lot of people attracted to the series.
God, it's finally your turn.
I was just going to say, to know Luke and Dan is to know deeply, deeply broken people. And that to me is very funny. So the more I spent time with them, I say that in jest because they're two of the funniest guys I've ever met. And they're funny without trying to be funny. They're not trying to make you laugh. They're sharing their observations on the world in which you find yourself. And a lot of it is absurd. I mean, this is just an absurd time in our country's history, in our global history. I mean, maybe the history of our species. This is absurd. And it is deeply upsetting. I mean, I think, hundreds of years have been deeply upsetting, but particularly the last 4 seem acutely upsetting. You still have to be able to try and find connection or joy somewhere. And that's what I think kind of we were going for. I mean, I remember filming a scene with Craig, and in the middle of it, my character's confronting his best friend for sleeping with his wife, my character's wife. And I was getting fired up and emotional. And in the middle of it, I looked over at Craig in the scene in between takes, and he just had this look on his face. He was like, "Hey man, we're filming a comedy." And what's great is when you watch that moment in the show, my character is freaking out. And there's just this look on Craig's face where he's like, this human being is absurd. And that is it. I mean, it's there's no balance. I think a better way to describe it is to keep it unbalanced and stay ahead of the audience, maybe.
Can I tag on to that? Oh man, 2 beautiful points. Which is the no balance, and the unbalanced, and to mix that in with what you just say. Frick. Oh, it's
He was saying that Luke and I are the funniest people he knows.
Right.
No, I said most broken. Most broken.
No, that got muffled.
But I was gonna mix it with as far as the balance goes, I approach a comedy anyway like a drama. It's like just read everything, straight, and you add your pauses or whatever. But it's like you said don't try. That's what I was getting at. So there is the imbalance of approaching it all like a drama, and also the not trying and just playing it straight.
Love that. Thank you. And Stephanie, I loved the scenes where you just kind of your character gathered Craig, and everybody just it was no big deal. And so I'm like, finally. So thank you, everyone.
Welcome.
Of course. Thank you. That was the fun part, I'd say.
Thanks. Hey, it's Rhonda. For Luke and Dan, I wanted to ask, what about Florida makes this not so unbelievable? And what was it about Craig that you knew that he was the anchor, the perfect anchor and leader for this? And for Craig, why? What challenge did you find in this?
Do you want to go? Luke, you're muted.
Sorry. Craig
I was going to say, I mean, we built the show with the knowledge. We got together with Craig before there was a show, and to make a show with Craig. So Craig, this was a boat built from the anchor up. That doesn't make any sense.
Wow. No.
Sounds good.
Sounds sweet though.
I know. So let's just leave it at that, vis-a-vis that, a boat built from the anchor up. But, and then Florida, I think the truth is, a big part of it was, it's all actually happening in Florida. Both the saw palmetto berries that Craig dreams of making a farm. He dreams of making a farm which grows saw palmetto berries, which are used by German pharmaceutical and Dutch pharmaceutical companies to make prostate reduction medicine. That's all real. They only grow basically primarily in one place in the United States, that's coastal Florida. And then not coincidentally, in that same place are the snakes, and the snake hunt and the snake hunting competition. So even if we hadn't wanted to make it, the truest thing about the whole show is that it takes place in Florida.
Yeah, and we talked a lot. I think Miami in particular. I mean, again, it's real and that it is what it is. But I think for a show that's a lot about this sort of haves and the have-nots and the vast chasm between them. I think Miami. I don't remember the metric anymore and how they quantify it, but I think Miami has the biggest disparity. I think Miami has the most. I'm trying to remember. It has the most billionaires of any city in North America or Europe living in it. Miami does, and it also has, it's like the income discrepancy between the top 1% and the bottom 99% is the greatest in Miami of any city in America, certainly, and I think in America and Europe. It's an insane place, and it really felt like because of that, a great home for this show, because it does have oligarchs and billionaires and people laundering money to buy, $150 million apartments. And then Miami has just like, parts that are just so working class or poor. And it's such a, ethnic and racial melting pot of a city. It's really an interesting place.
There were several challenges, from physical to existential, like we had hurricanes. Like there was a real hurricane that postponed us. There was a hurricane that happened one day on set, so we had to shut down production. And then they created hurricanes for the scenes. So these gigantic fans and the water, and it was freezing. They only did the made hurricanes on the day that it was freezing, by the way. But it was freezing. You could not hear, so it's like, I don't know when Jillian G spoke, and so it was just a guessing game. And then there were those challenges of the trust with okay, it's a different director every week, so it's like building this relationship with this director over the course of trusting and trying to dance with each other pretty much. And there was a challenge of learning and communicating sign language, ASL, and that was like, and then to not only communicate it but to perform and use it. So shout out to Rick, who was my ASL instructor, and Stephanie for gathering me when when it was something. She's like, no, it'll be better like this. It was but it was a labor of love. It was like, the challenge of the swamp. A swamp is walking around. I imagine what it would be like walking around in like 2 high heel shoes if one was shorter than the other one. But it was uncomfortable a lot. Okay, imagine. No, but it was uncomfortable. It was these things that just you had to like not focus on and then get to the nitty gritty of what was going on, in the scene or whatever. So it was a lot, but it was, man, I do it right back again in a heartbeat.
And we knew from having worked with Craig on Brooklyn Nine-Nine for 8 seasons, came back every year, like just not only how incredibly skilled he is as an actor and as a comedian, but also like what a professional he is. And it was clear from the beginning that like this was going to be a really difficult show where we asked a lot, because we were in another city and we were shooting outside a lot. We were on location a ton. There's stunts and there's weather, and it just was, and for Craig especially, as he said, with he's learning ASL and he's wrestling giant snakes, and it's the tonal stuff, as you've talked about. They have to be funny, and then one day they have to show up and deliver a 4-minute monologue where it ends with them sobbing. And I think we knew from the get-go that Craig was like, he's such a professional and set such a professional tone on set. He comes in so prepared. He's so willing to do anything. There's never like, diva-ish, but just anything. And it was like, it really made us comfortable going into making that show, that knowing that we had him sort of as the tone setter on set. Because I think everyone kind of takes their cue always from the top of the call sheet. And like, it really is a true gift to have Craig in that position.
Thank you guys. Very funny.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, you're right about that, Rhonda. This is definitely one of the funniest shows we've seen in a long while. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have it on good account that you guys might want to leave August 20th open on your calendar for AAFCA TV Honors. The announcement will come out on July 18th, our winners for this year. But thank you. Thank each of you for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for all the great questions.
Absolutely. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film TV critics, thank you for watching this edition and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Super.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.